My aunt was 25 and I was 17. We caught the PATH train and went to Harlem. When we got there, she said, "Go stand in that bodega," 'cause I didn't have the right attitude on the corner. My mouth was open like a tourist. When her drug deal was over, I left the bodega. The man stared at me 'cause I didn't buy anything. We got the PATH train back to Newark. We walked Orange Street, or was it Central Avenue? She said her favorite designer was Oscar de la Renta. In politics, she liked Angela Davis. I told her I had to go to the bathroom. While we were walking, I got that time of the month. We stopped in an apartment building and knocked on the door of an apartment. Her friend lived there, a guy, but his girlfriend got mad we were there. She even called us the B word. I asked to use the bathroom. It was a small bathroom shared by several families. No towels, no soap, no toilet tissue. We left and walked back to East Orange. I was glad when we got to Grandma's. My aunt was 25 and I was 17. I need a boyfriend, I told my aunt. I didn't think she took me serious, but the next day she had two guys sitting on her couch. "Pick one," she told me. It was like a boy vending machine. Should I pick the medium height one in his 20s, light, or the 6 foot tall one, high school senior, dark? My aunt took a drag on her cigarette. "Which one you want me to get rid of?" she said. I picked the guy closer to my age. My aunt told the other guy he could leave. We stood in the kitchen, me and my aunt. "You'll like him. He got money," she said. "He'll take you to New York." "Where's he get his money from?" I said. "Why you ask so many questions?" my aunt said. I sat down on the couch next to my new friend. He didn't try anything fresh. He just held my hand and we watched television, and then he stroked the side of my head with his hand. We made a date. I told him to meet me in the parking lot, the one behind the dance studio where I took my jazz dance lessons. The sun was about to set. He got off the bus on Main Street and walked through the parking lot like Lawrence of Arabia. He came and gave me a kiss when he got to me. He smelled like soap, basketball, and cigarettes. My aunt was 25 and I was 17. She boosted me some red Gloria Vanderbilts from Bamberger's and I went to my boyfriend's house. I drove my mother's blue Chevy Malibu and parked out front. I rang the doorbell. He came outside. He was tall. He smelled like shampoo and bedroom slippers. Then he kissed me like he was trying to impregnate somebody. We sat on the porch. He gave me two things: his graduation cap and gown picture and a silver necklace with a tiger tooth. He put the necklace around my neck. "Come meet my mom," she said. Mr. Sentimental. We walked through the dark living room into the light of the kitchen. There she was. An attractive lady, but she gave me a dirty look. He introduced us. His mother was wearing black eyeglasses like Clark Kent. She was sitting at the kitchen table reading the Star Ledger. I think she turned to the obituary page hoping she could put my name on it. For some reason, she didn't like me. I could just feel it. She was stern, like those ladies at the motor vehicles office that fail you in the driver's test just because you forgot to signal. How come my so-called man wasn't defending me against these looks? He didn't even seem to notice. After the pleasantries, me and her son went back on the porch. "Let's go to White Castle," I said. I had to get away from that house. That house that was judging my character. We got into my mother's Chevy. He rubbed his hand on my cheek. "I got something to tell you," he said. "What?" I didn't like surprises. He hesitated a bit. He smiled, then he spoke. "Your mother was my first grade teacher," he said. I tried to picture him 4 feet tall. I smiled, but then I got mad. "Did you tell your mother?" I said. "Maybe she would like me if you told her that." I deserved respect. I was not some floozy. I put the key in the ignition and started up the car engine. I gave him a dirty look. Your mother should be treating me like a celebrity, I said. My mother was your teacher. My family started you on your way. My aunt was 25 and I was 17. I walked into my aunt's room and it was silent. Assalamu alaikum, she said. Then I swung my pocketbook into a circle and I flung it on her bed. It's over, I said. What's over? She said. His mother called my house, I said. I flopped onto her bed. I looked on her wall and saw a picture of Huey P. Newton staring at me. His mother was asking me all these questions. Who is making these toll calls from my line to your number? I just received my phone bill in the mail with all these toll calls. Who do you know in East Orange? I want to know who's responsible. Then I realized it was Nasir's mother. She didn't even recognize my voice. I wasn't going to squeal on him, but I didn't like getting yelled at. Your son Michael. Oh, she said. Her face was tight. I sat on my aunt's bed. She had a poster on her wall of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse in the bed together smoking a cigarette. Oh, well, my aunt said, Jive the baker, get a bun. Come over here, let me do your hair. My aunt did my hair, and she said we could go to the 2001 disco. I was excited about going, but when we got there, all we did was sit in the car for 2 hours. When her friend finally got there, he said, let's catch the PATH to New York. On the PATH train, my aunt's friend was staring at me like he wanted to ask me a question. I got uncomfortable. I looked the other way, and I started staring at these 2 deaf Puerto Rican guys talking to each other in sign language. Did you have sex education in high school? I asked my aunt. They taught us the parts of the body and told us to douche, that's it. Did you go to the prom? I spent my prom money on drugs. During the prom, I was smoking reefer with the mayor's son. Her friend was a pretty boy. He came over and leaned towards me. What do you like to do? He said. Watch television, I said. Do you go to parties? He asked me. Sometimes, I said. Do you get high? He said. No, I said. Oh, a square, he said. Why don't you like to get high? Because Freddie's dead, I said. Go sit back on the other side, my aunt told him, always trying to get in somebody's business. Her friend left, but then he came back. He leaned towards my aunt. Did you tell your niece about your new job? He said. What new job? I said. She never had a job before. Why are you trying to jinx me? She said. I didn't even start yet. Where's your new job at? Dietary, she said. Dietary department at Martland Medical. When were you going to tell me? Why you ask so many questions, my aunt said. Act just like your father. Did your father call you today? Buttons is moving to Plainfield. Your father's a town crier, you know that. Shoot, I said. Why does everybody in the family does he have to live near me? I didn't want to talk about Buttons anymore. Can I go with you to your new job? I said. Yeah, she said, after my first 90 days. My aunt was 25 and I was 17. Me and my aunt got into her friend Dan's Cadillac. He gave us a ride to her job in Newark at Martland Medical Center. When we got there, the security guards asked her why she was wearing a satin ribbon around her neck. Fashion, she told them. I saw it in Vogue. We went to the cafeteria and we got some free fish. Then we went to the dietary department and she pointed out the gay guys. There were some old ladies in the dietary department. My aunt leaned over and whispered, Miss Bessie has a big pocketbook, and she took home 20 pork chops. My aunt's supervisor was a guy named Leroy. Leroy cleared his throat and announced to the department that I was cute as a button. It's easy to be cute when you're 17. Then this guy with waves in his hair came over to talk to us. He asked my aunt what was the ribbon around her neck representing. Fashion, she said. Mr. Waves looked at me, and he told me I was a lovely sister. Get lost, my aunt told him. Sag. It was almost time to take the food to the patients. I turned around, and standing next to me was a 13-year-old black boy. Follow him, my aunt said. We left dietary, and me and this boy went through some dark passageways to a glass-doored office. He told me to speak to this lady there and to sign my hospital volunteer papers. When we got back, my aunt got her food carts and we pushed them to the elevators. We caught an old, creaky, dark elevator and went to a floor with the patients. There was an old black man in the hallway, walking slowly in a hospital gown, holding onto an IV pole. After we finished covering her patient units, we pushed her empty racks into the elevator. The elevator was dark and decrepit. My aunt bugged her eyes out at me and said a scary poem she knew by Edgar Allan Poe. After work, we took a bus to visit her friend Karima. I sat at Karima's kitchen table and ate a Sloppy Joe sandwich. Karima told me about how she and her friends got stuck in Coney Island when they were in the 10th grade. They ran out of money. She had to ask a stranger for cash to get the subway and the PATH train. My aunt told Karima Mr. Waves said he would drop his girlfriend like a hot potato for me. You like him? Karima asked me. He's too old, I said. To me, he looked like he was at least 25 years old. Karima and my aunt laughed, and then they said that Mr. Waves was a rabbit because he liked to hop from hole to hole. My aunt fell in love with a guy who was a little bit shady. My aunt got an apartment, and she had a baby. My aunt worked in dietary, and then she got a job in an office. Then my father called me and told me she enrolled in college.